welcome to the CIRIS podcast organized by the Center for International Relations and International Security. I'm your host, Adithyan Nair, and I'm the director and editor of digital content at the CIRIS at CIRIS. Today, I'm excited to be with Mr. Sabur Shah Dawod Zai. He is the CEO and founder of Bin Dawood's Foundation, and also he was working as the advisor for the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs in Afghanistan. Mr. Shah, would you like to introduce yourself further?
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sabur Shah Dawoodzai. I am the CEO and founder of Beni Dawood Foundations, and I was working as a senior advisor to the Deputy Interior Minister of Afghanistan. And I came to Poland last year. So yeah, I'm here in
Yeah,
Poland.
yeah. This is where I we met. The first question I wanted to ask you was, what were your duty? What did you do in Afghanistan? What were your duties? Who were you connected with?
Well, in Afghanistan, after I graduated from university in 2017, I decided because my first love was computer science, and after that, I was into politics. So decided to join the politics. But being involved in politics is little bit hard. You need to like you will have lots of problems and stuff, and the only thing you need to fight with the big politicians and stuff, so you can achieve the goals. So I started in 2017 as a social activist, and then from there we started to work for Afghanistan and its people. And then since in Afghanistan there was some corruptions and stuffs, mostly there was a big directors and deputies. They were hired, but they after they get hired, they used to do corruptions. So we started an actions to do like expose them in a social media and so on. And after 1 year, I joined some small NGO as a youth officer. And while I was working as a youth officer there, I met so many VIPs and ministers and stuff. And finally, after some times, I joined as a technical advisor for the election commission. And we had a very big elections in Afghanistan. And after our president was elected to Afghanistan, I left the election commission, and after 6 months, I was offered as a advisor for the Deputy of Interior Minister. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the fascinating things for me because you're very young,
Okay.
25, I believe. And when you first told me about your position, I was surprised to, at a young age, to reach a high position is really commendable. Which so you had really close ties with the government and so on. So you were there on August 15th when everything took place, when Taliban took over. What was your reaction? Like how was it? What was the government's reaction at the time? You had the first-hand experience. So
Well, well, to be honest, before that, on 12th of August, when there was an International Youth Day, every year we used to organize such events in Presidential Palace, and we used to invite like youths from 34 provinces, and we had some sessions to like appreciate their works and stuff. But normally in other days or other times, we had a very strict rules in a presidential palace where no one was allowed to have their phones, their power banks, and even a small pen was not allowed with someone who can enter to the presidential palace. But on that day, I was quite shocked because many of people had phones, some people had power banks, even some people had the stuffs which was like according to the security, it was not allowed. I was quite shocked. So then I met some people. I mean, some senior advisors to the Afghan president, and I asked them that, how is the situation? What is the situation? And what's going on? Because the situation was not good for me. So I asked him that what's going on in a presidential palace and also what's going on in Afghanistan, because that is the normal question everyone used to ask from us since we were working in a presidential palace and so on. So everyone was like, hey man, how is the situations? So the senior advisor for the Afghan president told me that our president is really pressurized from a foreign countries. I don't want to name them, but they said our president is really pressurized to hand over the government to Taliban. So I was like, it's really shocking news for me, but we make some fun and we took that not seriously. Coming to the date on 15th of August, I was in my office and then I got a call from one of my nearest friend and he said, hey man, where are you? I said, I'm in my office. And he said, just take your important documents, your passport, your everything, and leave your office. So I was like, are you crazy? I'm in my office. How can I leave my office? And he said, I'm standing here, and 5 minutes or 10 minutes ago, our president left Afghanistan. So, for at least 10 to 15 minutes, I was shocked. I was not accepting this news. Somehow, he was like a really trusted source for me. I knew that he is working, he is with president, but I was not accepting that. So I tried to call some other senior advisors and people. Even we called some special security with the name of PPS, which is Presidential Special Security. So I called the deputy director of PPS. I said, hello, sir, what's going on? Is this true? And he said, unfortunately, yes. So after that, I just had a couple of certificates and documents in my laptop. So I just took that and I was like quite shocked and I was not deciding where to go, either to go home or to airport, because many of people was rushing to the airport. And there I got the problem since I was more active in the social media and also in the media. So I was not be able to hide myself because I had many people who can change their selves, having a big beard or something, or change their hairs so they can be changed themselves. So I was shocked. Then I called my father that, father, the situation is like this, and I am not be able to decide whether to come to Nangarhar, which is my father's place, or my place, because on that time I was in Kabul. So after some times, my father told me that, son, your life is important. Don't think about us. Just try to contact your friends and people and leave Afghanistan as soon as possible. So I was really like, it was really terrible situation for me leaving Afghanistan with nothing. Like I work in Afghanistan for almost 9, 10 years, day and night, and I reached the place where I wanted to be. And then in that point, you left everything with a single bag, only having two pairs of clothes and a few bottle of water. It was like really hard for me, but somehow I realized, if since before that I was attacked by anti-government people 3 times, so now the same people was having the whole government, the whole GPS, everything, databases. So I decided to leave the country. On that time, I contacted many countries. I mean, uh, the people from many countries like US, Canada, uh, British, and some Europe Union countries. But after contacting them, since it was a terrible situation, they was not be able to respond to my phone calls at the moment. I had one of my friend. Her name was Joanna Klozik Krostowska. She was a former education minister in Poland, and she is the current member of parliament in Poland. So I contacted her. Told her the situation and everything, and she said she will try to evacuate me. In the meantime, it took 3 to 4 days for security check and putting me in the list. And after some days, she told me that I am in the evacuation list. I can go to the airport and come to Poland. Yeah.
Okay. And how was your journey from to Poland? Like, what are you doing right now? What are your activities? Because now you have also been praised by several important people about your activities regarding helping Ukrainian people.
Yes.
Would you like to tell the audience more about that?
Well, the first thing was for me, I will start from the same place. When I was selected in Poland's evacuation list, for me, that was a really terrible situation because in the airport we had 8 gates, and in every gate we had thousands of people, thousands of children, thousands of women, and everyone was shouting that we are in the list, evacuate us. It was really hard for me, but after trying for 48 hours, I was be able to get entered to the airport, and finally, in 2 3 days, I came to Poland. For the first 10 to 20 days, I was totally shocked. I was not be able to talk to anyone, even to my family. They was just texting me that, are you safe? I was like, okay, I am safe, but you can consider me as a alive, I mean, dead body. I don't know how to say that, but I was like literally alive, but I didn't know what to decide. But anyhow, I was really thankful to the Polish government and my parliament friends. They helped me. When I came here, I decided to help other Afghans who were stuck in Afghanistan. In there, I divided into two parts. The first thing, we had two kind of people. The first people who was working in the government with the high positions, low positions, whose life was in danger, and they wanted to leave the country. So that was the first thing. And the second thing, we had some small people like, uh, for example, employees, government employees, or teachers, or some small business owners who had nothing to do with government or politics or something. And when the new government came, their jobs, their business was collapsed. So they was dying because of poverty. They didn't had food and stuff. So I decided to help them in two places. Some people to be evacuated, and also some people to be helped with the food packages. So in this 1 year, I helped like almost 400 families with food packages, and also we had helped like around 100 families or 100 people to evacuate them to different countries of Europe, mostly to Spain. And of course, when there was a war in Ukraine, uh, it took me back to the 15th of August, because we had the same situations like they did. We also leave our country with a single bag, and they had the same situation: no money, no food. So I decided to help them with the food packages. Of course, there are some problems with white skins and black skins, and some Asians and some Europeans. But I said, okay, when my life was in danger, Polish people didn't ask me, who are you? Where are you from? They just helped me. So for me, human rights, or we can say humanitarian, was the first thing. So I decided to help Ukrainians with the food packages, because I thought maybe they would need foods at first. But when I went there, the first thing they would need was accommodation and transportation. So first, I brought them some food packages and stuffs, and also some clothes. And after that, many people was looking for accommodation. Since I had good contacts, so I asked the people if they can provide them accommodation and stuff. In this journey, I helped more than 100 people of Ukraine with the food packages and accommodations.
Oh, that is really impressive, and I've seen it firsthand about how you try to help Afghanistans, because we met at the
Yeah,
conference, Warsaw Security Conference, and you were
yeah,
talking to the German ambassador, the South Korean ambassador, everybody
yes,
about possibilities to bring them to the safer places, and this was really commendable, according to
thank you.
me. Yeah, and
I mean, I'm still trying to find every single opportunity to help them, because in the Warsaw Security Forum, I was in contact with German ambassador, with Korean deputy ambassador, and I asked them, okay, we have, for you, we have two things: either to help them with the whole family's evacuation. If you cannot help them the whole families, at least help those women or those people who wants to get educated. You can offer them some scholarship and stuff. And of course they told me they will think about it and they will get back to me. Thank you.
yeah, I hope they do think about it and they do get back to you.
Yeah.
But back to Afghanistan. It's been over a year now. How do you currently assess the situation in Afghanistan?
Well, to be honest, it's we can call them, for example, uh, it's a big bus with no driver. The bus is going in the journey with no driver. We have people who are starving. We have a people who are thirsty for education. We have a people like there is many situations. I cannot say only single situation, because I know more than 10 people who are selling their kidneys for food. I know many people daily. I get more than like 10, 20 messages that is there any good news for education, or is there anything for the education? People are selling their homes and everything, and they are going to some neighbor countries which they never wanted to even mention their names. Now they are living in these countries, and when I tell them why, and they say because my the education of my family or my children's are important. So they sell everything, their home, cars, everything, just to educate their families, and then they try to evacuate. So for me, it is like, of course, now we have some new people, but they don't know how to run the government. So this is the situation of Afghanistan.
Uh, I I see, and I have read an article recently where a lot of Afghan people are going to Iran, for example, where previously they wouldn't have liked to settle down in Iran. And also, I read that the special armed Afghan forces are being recruited by Russia against US interests. Do you think this is like the domino effect of the decision making of the United States of retrieving their troops, and now it ended up against them?
Well, I was in touch with some defense people based in Europe Union. I was in a Europe Parliament 3 months ago, and I told them. They said, "Okay, sorry, we cannot anything. We cannot do anything." I said, "See, now it's the problem of Afghanistan. Tomorrow, many of these people, or we can say many of anti-government people, will get student visas, will get PhD visas and other visas, and they will come to Europe, they will come to America, they will come to Britain, and they will start their activities from there. The same for the soldiers. They want to fight with the people who are against the government. And when there is no government, they don't have nothing to feed their families. They don't have money. They don't have anything. So instead of dying with nothing, it is good to fight with someone. So not only Russia, even if any country gives them some offers, they will accept it, because they want to feed their families. Instead of selling the kidneys, it's good to fight, because they love fight. And of course, I told to these people, I don't want to mention these people's name, but I told them, okay, today it's not your problem, but tomorrow, day after tomorrow, after 1 year, this would be the main problem of your country, because these people will come here. Of course, there is no There is no bullets, there is no bombs, there is no nothing. But you do have a big trucks, because you can see many incidents in Britain, in US. They took trucks, they go to some parties and they kill more than 10, 20, 50 people. So I told them the next day it would be your problem. So if they don't think, if Europe Union, if US, if Britain, they don't think about these people, these things, the next day it would be a problem of these countries too.
Rightly said, and I think we can already see that because currently the Afghan armed forces who were training with the and fighting with the US armed forces are allying with Russia because they have, like you said, they simply have no
Yeah,
choice. And this is against US interests. So we can see how it's coming back to them and affecting them when they don't address the issue at hand. So, yeah.
yeah.
And during this time of withdrawing the troops, US withdrawal of troops, how was the Afghan government's reaction on the day it happened? How your personal reaction? How was it?
Well, to be honest, everyone knows, like many countries, is somehow like followed by the US troops, or we can say from the US government. If they say something, they need to accept. In like, I don't want to give example, but in general, most of the Asian countries are in power of the US. So whatever they say, they accept. Whatever they do, they accept. If not, they have other things. For example, they give money. Of course, in Asia there is lots of corruptions. So if they want to take the power of something, if they can do it officially, they give to money to someone to buy these big chairs and big positions, and then they run these kind of stuffs. So of course, I would like to say it was the US troops problem. They handed over Afghan government to these people.
Okay.
Yeah, in simple words.
Yeah, again, you can see how it's affecting them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And about coming back to the situation on the on ground situation in Afghanistan, do you think the world is seeing everything? Like, do you think the media is being able to cover everything, or how is the Taliban oppressing the media?
Uh, I will give you a small example.
Hmm.
Nowadays, let me tell you about media. Nowadays, whatever you see on the media is not true,
Right.
because you are working in the same country, and if you do something against the media, because you might see many journalists who were working in Afghanistan, For example, there was some foreign journalist, one from New Zealand, I think, and some others, and one from Italy. They went to Afghanistan, and when they was coming back, they started to talk against the current government. And for the next time when they went there, they were not allowed to enter to Afghanistan, because they said you did bad reporting, so we're not allowing you to Afghanistan. Even one journalist was in custody for 3 days, and they said you have two choices: either to tweet apology from the current government, or you will be in prison. So she had no choice. She did a tweet that I apology. This current government is really good. They do really good behave. I'm sorry about my reports. I was wrong. I was this. I was this. And after 2 days, she was released. And then again, she said I had no choice, either to write a tweet or not, because if I didn't use to tweet, they would put me in the prison for the long time. So many of journalists from we have a really famous news channel by the name of Tolo News. They took them so many times into custody, and finally, these people, after the custody, when they were released, when they were pressurized by UN and other people, they left the country. Because I knew many journalists, I was like, Why you're not coming to the Europe countries? You have so many opportunities. Journalists are at high risk. They can accept you. They said, brother, I don't want to leave the country. And after they was in custody and they was pressurized. So after being pressurized, they had no choice and they left the country. Yeah.
Well, I think that one example summed up the whole situation that's happening in Afghanistan pretty well. What do you think the other actors, the other powerful states like USA, EU, India, China, other regional actors should do now?
Well, to be honest, most of the countries they just wanted to looking for their own profits. It's like a business because many Asian countries have their own business in Afghanistan. And those who have business, they are in. Those who have no business, they are out. Because there is many things. Afghanistan is full of minerals. Afghanistan is full of I can say full of treasures, full of golds. So if some country have the access to these things or have interest in these things, they are uh, we can say they accept any government, anyone, just to achieve their goals. So nowadays we see some countries, those who are supporting them for no reason. And of course we have some countries, they still have some sanctions on Afghanistan. So it's a matter of business. If they have business in Afghanistan, they support them. If they don't have business, they don't support.
Yes, I agree because I believe China was one of the first countries to recognize the Taliban regime. And it's like China already has invested plenty in Afghanistan, and there are also talks happening from a couple of years now about Afghanistan's inclusion in the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor.
Yeah.
Uh, what what do you think? Like, is it going to happen? Is it something that
Well,
neighboring countries like India should think about?
well, I will tell you something about India because if you ask from any Afghan, they literally, I mean, no matter if they lived in India, they went to India or not, from the bottom of heart, they loved Indians and India. But after the collapse of, we can say, the Republican government, most of the people, including myself, we were really disappointed from Indian government because many of our friends and families and people didn't wanted to go to some other countries. I don't want to mention them, neighbor countries, but they would be happy to go to India because they feel safe in India. But on that time, I mean, till now, India didn't help Afghan people in the evacuation. Of course, they provided some humanitarian help, which was like a common thing. Even if there is a war in China, India will help them as a common, not as a neighborhood or something. So I mean, I was in touch with many Indian politicians, and I clearly said that, see, I'm really disappointed from Indian government because till now they didn't help. Even though we had, of course, since I was in the security system, so I know the security threats, security problems, and so on. Because it's hard to recognize who is good, who is bad. But even like I'm still in touch with some people who were students in India and they are stuck in Afghanistan and they're not being given a visa. And everyone is contacting me that, see, we were in India for 4 years, we were in India for 3 years, we were in India for 5 years, and they had like a whole information. Like in India, they had some documents and stuff. So suppose a person who used to live in India for 5 years, for 2 years, how can he be an anti-government person or a new person? So I mean, I requested so many times to Indians officials to at least, okay, don't give visa to new person, don't give visa to someone who was not been to India before, but at least give visa to those people who have their documents, their university, their system in India. Even the funny thing was, when on 15th of August till 20th of August, when I didn't had any chance to leave the country to, like, for example, Europe or US. I had one of my friend. He was a former ambassador of India to Afghanistan, and he told me to apply for the online India visa, where they can help me. And I was like, okay. So I applied, and the funny thing was, 2 days ago, they sent me an email. Like, I applied on 15 August of 2021, and 2 days ago, they just sent me an email that, I'm sorry, your visa is rejected.
Oh,
So
wow.
for me, it was like, I was about to tweet about it, that thank you so much for the fast response.
And
So I mean,
how long did it
yeah,
take for the Polish government or other European governments to respond to you?
I mean, it was like 2 days.
Okay, so 1.5 years, and 2 days. That's quite a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I called to that member of parliament on 16th of August, and she said she will discuss it on 17th. And by 20th of night, at the night, I got a call from her, and she said, you are in the list. So it was like, for example, she met on 17, and after 17, 18, 19, and in 20, I got my, for example, it was like not visa, but it, of course, in evacuation, it is called visa. So I was selected in the evacuation process. So it took like 3 days. Even I had journalist people in India who was like security related and other related, and they gave me the WhatsApp numbers of uh, Ministry of Foreign Affairs India and so on, and I even sent the documents to them and some high officials. Even I knew one MLA from India, and I sent my documents to them. Literally, I had anyone in my phone which was like Indian. I send them my documents if they have any contacts to issue my visa, and that was the fast response, because I got response after like 400 days or something, and they
Wow.
said your visa is cancelled. Yeah,
Wow, that is appalling.
yeah.
But at this time, what do you think the country should do? Should they, like, regarding the Taliban regime, is it time for an
Hmm.
armed intervention? How do you see it playing out?
Sorry.
Is it time for an armed intervention to overthrow the Taliban regime? Like, what do you think?
Well, I will tell you something. When Afghan government, or we can say Republic government, came to Doha and stood for the peace talk, it has been more than 4 decades since we are fighting. I was born in the war. I grew up in the war, and maybe if I go back to Afghanistan, uh, I will die in war. So our people, uh, they are like, they fed up from armed interventions, or we can say from fighting for stuffs. So no one wants to have a fight. That's why our Afghan president Ashraf Ghani, and he said we will do a peace talk, and we will finish this matter with a peace talk. So, for example, when we had government, on the both sides, there was a people who was Muslims, there was a people who was Afghans. For example, the Talibans, who also called Afghans, and to other like Afghan military who was also Afghans, and both were killed. And now there are many people in Taliban's regimes who had no choice either to feed their families or to be killed. So they are a part of the Taliban's regime. So suppose if there is some new people and they came and they say, okay, we will fight with the armed, and we will kill all these people, and will have new government. So tomorrow when there is a new government, there will be new people who will fight against this new people. So it will be like a chain. Today they fight, tomorrow we fight, tomorrow we fight, after that they will fight, or their children or their daughters or their sons will fight. So the better thing is, like, of course, we make we made a fun of the peace talk in the previous section, but it would be good if they have some talks and they do this. Yeah.
Oh. And how do you assess the situation of women in Afghanistan? Because the Taliban regime is claiming something else, when we all know that's not. Several news agencies have reported that that's not the case. So you have your friends and family in Afghanistan. What do they tell you about the situation?
In Afghanistan, 51% of population is women, and in the Republic government, uh, the majority of women had a really good opportunities to work in Afghan government, and they had really good education system, and also they had a really good approach to the government employment system. Like, we had many Afghan women who was working in a really big positions. Like, I was personally working with two women. When I was in an election commission, my chairwoman was woman, and when I was working in a interior ministry, I was working with the deputy interior ministry, and she was also a woman. And then we had a woman, she was a deputy defense minister, and also we had in a health. I mean, the big positions was with women, which means they had a power, they had a knowledge, and they knew that's why they deserved these positions. And in other hands, we had some women who was the only breadwinners to their families. Suppose there was a family of 10 people. Of course, we had a war. So in the war, most of the men were killed, and we had only women who can work and serve for their families. And they was the only breadwinners to their families. But unfortunately, now they don't have any choice. And in other hands, uh, all of these women wants to learn. Of course, first they said, we don't accept Taliban's rules, we don't accept hijab, we don't say accept this. But now they say, okay, we will accept whatever you say, but we need educations. Because at first days, they had some separated classrooms for male and female. They said, for the universities, they said, for females you will have female teachers only, female stuff only. And we had a problem with that. Some people accepted, some people didn't accept it. Then they said some black hijab, which many of women didn't accept. But now, women came to the conclusion that they will accept whatever this new government say. We will accept, but we need to be educated, because it has been more than 400 days since Afghan women have no rights to education. Even last two months before, I got World Peace Award in Stockholm, Sweden, and I dedicated my award to the women of Afghanistan who are thirsty for education. Yeah.
Yes, I saw this. I was watching you dedicate the award. I saw your post. I'm following you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
but
Thank
how was the experience going to Stockholm to accept the award? Did you expect it? Like, how was the experience?
you. Well, there are so many things unexpectedly, because when I came to Poland, I had nothing in my hand. I had only $200 in my pocket, which I will never forget, and I had only two pairs of clothes, and I was really upset with myself, and I was always talking to me that, Sabur, what you did with yourself? if if I because I had many opportunities to do some corruptions and stuff, but no, I didn't do that, because I wanted to serve for the country and work for the country and its people. And many people was making fun of me, and they said, see, if you had lots of money, you would had a good luxury life. So I said, no, I am safe, and this is a good thing for me. So I decided to help the people, and in India, or we can say in Hindi, we say neki kar darya mein dal. Do good things and put it in the water or in the river, which means you will have the outcome soon. So when I got the email, I was quite shocked, and they said they just sent me an email and they said we are following your situation and activities, what you did in this 1 year. And they said, are you based in Poland? I said yes, and they asked me that can you legally travel? I was like yes. So after these questions, next day they send me an email that congratulations, you are like accepted as one of the awardees. So I was like quite shocked. Then I realized it was the prayers of those people whom I helped. And then I said, okay, since I got this award, not because of uh, like we can say my personal achievement, it was because I helped the people and I got this award. So at the end, I dedicated the same award to the girls of Afghanistan.
Yeah, that is really moving to listen to.
Yeah.
And moving forward, how does it look for Afghanistan? What are your thoughts on the future?
Well, Afghanistan went 50 or 55 years back.
Right.
I mean, there was like we had a war for 4 decades, and we was like people are going like in this way, we were going like this, like a jet. We were really growing fast. We had really different situations, but we accept challenges, like you see the COVID situation, which was like a big war in the whole world, but we survived in a really good way. And also we had some other situations. We had really good education, we had everything, and we was building really fast, and we were really happy because we had PhD holders, we had masters, we had really good achievements. But now those who had like I know personally uh, the best people who was in Afghanistan, 85% of people already left the countries and they are out of Afghanistan. There is no good education, there is no good employment, there is no good, for example, in general, we can say no trainings, nothing is there. So, from my thoughts, Afghanistan went back to 15 years back, which is like really bad.
Oh, and is it going to change, or what are your thoughts?
Of course, every regime, every thing is going to be changed. Nothing is permanent because you can suppose when our government, when our republic collapsed, which was the strongest government, we had army, we had everything, we had educated people. So this government can also be collapsed if they don't think, if they don't give women empowerment, if they don't give education system, if they don't help people, because we have so many humanitarian cases. They kill people, they bury people, they put people in the water. There is so much problems in there. So if they don't correct these problems, it will be also collapse to a new government.
Yeah. I think we have witnessed that in several countries already, so the future is not so unpredictable for the
Yes.
Taliban regime. And last and final question for me. Um,
Okay.
what is, as a social activist, as a former member of the Ashraf Ghani government, what is the ideal, according to you, what is the solution? What solution needs to come forward?
Well, there are a few things to be considered. First, um, as I mentioned before, the Europe Union, the US nation, the Britain, these people has to come together and pressurize the current government for education, for humanitarian stuff. And also because we are hoping, I got some news is that we will have a new government, we will have a new structure soon. And then if we have these, I mean, with every changes since I was in Afghanistan, suppose if we had a one deputy minister and suddenly he was changed to a new deputy minister, I mean, if there was a a new person instead of that person, so the same department was going back to 6 months, 1 year. I mean, of course, there was a more talented person than the previous one, but the plans which was that person following, and then suddenly new person came, the government was going back, and then they were starting from the zero. So the thing is, like, of course, we will have a new government, new people, but again we will go back and we will start from zero. We will start recruiting zero army. We will start recruiting new people, and then we will start from the zero. So what I suggest is to sit in the table and talk, and then resolve the problems and get together with a new government and new people. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Sabur Shah, for this insightful, for sharing your story, for commenting on the situation currently, and also and analyzing the global outlook on Afghanistan. Uh, thank you so much for spending your
It's
time,
my pleasure. It's my
and
pleasure.
I hope
Thank
to
you.
see you
Thank you.
soon in Poland.
I hope so. I hope. Have a
I'm
nice day.
sure we will. You too. Have a nice day.
Have a bye.
Bye bye.